Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to, of course, the Friday review. Today, of course, I am reviewing the newest album, of course, also at this point, their 13th full-length album. This, of course, is the newest release from, of course, to me personally, I've always considered them a US power metal band. That's Vicious Rumors, with the album Celebration Decay, which was released through Steamhammer Records on August 21st of this year. So, the last time I had reviewed Vicious Rumors albums was actually definitely was a few years ago. It was 2016, which was the previous album prior to this, which was Concussion Protocol. Since then, apparently there's been some lineup changes, which is apparently is nothing new to, of course, the Vicious Rumors camp. It's nothing new. Some of it on sad notes. Well, for the most part, obviously, Jeff Thorpe, can't really keep a steady lineup. Even at one point, even had James Rivera of course, Hellstar. Still, though, the difference between, of course, I'm going to try, let's see if I can get this correct. The difference is that there's a different, there's at least only two here that's left. I mean, of course, Jeff Thorpe is the only at least sole original member, at least pretty much left here. But the only one that's left that at least that was on Concussion Protocol is drummer Larry Howell. The rest of the three is pretty much different. For one, Nick Holman is no longer here, who of course was the previous singer on, again on Concussion Protocol, Theon Rasmussen, and of course, Tillen Hudrap. Again, they are no longer here. Instead, they have been replaced by Gunnar DeGray, Nick Courtney, who is the newest singer for this album, and of course, Cody Green, who is mostly, apparently is listed at only listed for adding the guitar solos for, of course, tracks Any Last Words and Long Way Home. So basically tracks 4 and 7. Okay, I guess that's at least all the information I can give for this album. And I mean, at this point, everybody should at least know, if you are familiar with Vicious Rumors, you should at least be familiar with at least their first 4 albums. Everything from at least Soldiers of the Night all the way up to, of course, Welcome to the Ball. Again, I have at least reviewed their first 3 albums on this channel when I did US Power Metal Month, and of course in 2016. So with that, let's get right in to, of course, Celebration Decay, the newest album from Vicious Rumors. So let's definitely get right into my thoughts on this album. Though, before I really get into any of my thoughts on, of course, Celebration Decay, let's definitely do a track listing rundown. There's at least 11 tracks on this album, and of course it all clocks in at 46 minutes and 47 seconds. These 11 tracks, of course, go from Celebration Decay, which of course is the title track, Pulse of the Dead, Arrival of Desolation, Any Last Words, Asylum of Blood, Darkness Divine, Long Way Home, Cold Blooded, Death Eternal, Collision Course Disaster, and Masquerade of Good Intentions. So, as far as the album is concerned, as at least, there's really isn't anything completely different from, I guess, any of the previous 3 releases, especially when, at least, I'm not very familiar with a lot of the albums after Welcome to the Ball. However, though, as far as at least judging my at least base or my thoughts off of course, the previous sound, Concussion Protocol, there isn't anything different. It's pretty much, again, a lot very similar. Again, the same sort of, again, very heavy still, and still very melodic, and at times, again, with a lot of that crunch, and at times very heaviness, for, again, when it comes to, of course, their brand of again, very almost United States brand power metal, or definitely also thinking man's power metal, I guess you can say, or just thinking man's metal, in the same vein as like Metal Church. You still get some of that on this album, and again, Jeff Thorpe is definitely still in top shape. The guy doesn't really miss a beat. However, as far as when it comes to at least memorability, I think as compared to Concussion Protocol, even though I liked Concussion Protocol when it came out, and again, it's a good album in its own right, but I think there's at least something here that I felt that was somewhat missing. Even though I did give Concussion Protocol a pretty decent score, a good score, this one at least gets a little bit of an edge above. And it also, I think it comes down to, of course, Nick Courtney's vocals on this album, which I think compared to Nick Holman, I think he does a little bit more for me than Nick Holman on Concussion Protocol. Here, there is a lot of similarities to, of course, Carl Albert, the late singer for, of course, Vicious Rumors, who sang on the classic albums such as Digital Dictator, the self-titled third album, and Welcome to the Ball. He's very similar at times to Carl Albert, especially when he hits some Halford-esque screams on this album. Though there's also a little bit of similarities to Tim Ripper Owens as well. The one-time singer for Judas Priest, though, one time but 2 albums though with Judas Priest. These at least those are the comparisons I can draw with Nick Courtney here. But he's a great fucking singer, and in many ways he elevates a lot of these songs on this album in general. And as far as the band, they just sound fucking tight compared to at least the members on here. I mean, again, it's very similar to Concussion Protocol, but at the same time, there's at least a little bit more memorability. They sound a lot more inspired as well. Everything just sounds a lot more stronger on this album than compared to Concussion Protocol. Even though it's still very similar in terms of the writing and styling, I just think there's a little bit more here that does something for me than on the previous album. But without trying to get in more of my thoughts, let me definitely run down some songs I really like off this one. I mean, I'm not going to run on every single song on this album. To me, that will just, I will feel like it's going to take up most of the video. I don't feel like getting this to at least 24 or 25 minutes. I want to at least get this at least a little bit short. So I pretty much just cherry picked at least the songs that I think do more for me, and I think that what makes up the album for me, and I think will get at least my point across for, I think, how I feel this album at least gets a bit of a straight edge above Concussion Protocol. So these songs, of course, that I picked out that I think do quite a bit for me is, as far as highlights, is the title track, the opener. Again, it begins with the sounds of sirens and news clips to then transitioning to some balls to the wall speed metal. It's a very heavy track. And I think it definitely opens up the album great, and definitely for sure gives the good idea of what you're going to get with the rest of the album. And I think it does a great of setting up the record in general. It's definitely a great opening track, and what opening tracks should be able to do. It gets you bumping. It gets the blood pumping and everything. It gets your heart racing. You start banging your head. That's what an opening track should do. It just gets the thing going. Gets the driving going also, and it's a great track. So the other highlight for me is the track that follows up the title track, which of course is Pulse of the Dead. Again, it's a less frantic track though, but it's still heavy as a tank. It's a fucking great track. The track that follows up Pulse of the Dead I also really dig, which is Arrival of Desolation. Has a galloping pace to this track, but again, it's got hooks and memorability. It's a great freaking track. And of course, track number 4, which is Any Last Words. I also really dig this one. It's why I also highlight, or at least have this track as a highlight on this one. Again, it's just a great driving metal number with hooks. Hooks, baby. Fucking hooks. And of course, Divine Darkness, which is a dark, slow, moody number with a heavy freaking tone. I love this track. And of course, another track I also love is, of course, Long Way Home, which is a more light-hearted metal track that is packed with hooks and a catchy fucking chorus. Again, hooks, motherfucker, hooks. And now, of course, the other track that I really dig off this album is the very last track, which is Masquerade of Good Intentions. Again, it ends the album, and, well, it's a fiery, scorching number. So basically, the album opens up with a great freaking fiery opener and ends with a fiery opener. Again, book and tracks, which is another one thing that also makes the album is also if you pick the right kind of track to end an album. Again, even though it's not, I wouldn't say it's amazing to some people. It may not be seen as amazing, but to me, I think it drives the album home, which is what albums are supposed to freaking do. So it drives the album home. I mean, you get the album going to get onto the fucking highway, but when it gets home, you have to at least get it smooth, and that's why I feel Masquerade of Good Intentions does. It drives the album home smoothly, and it's a great freaking track, and it ends it perfectly. So that's, I feel, why this album gets at least an edge above Concussion Protocol, even though I thought Concussion Protocol was a great album. But what I've just stated here, I think, is why I feel it at least is somewhat, again, it gets an edge above. And I think it's, again, this is a great freaking album. So there you go. There is my review for, of course, Celebration Decay from Vicious Rumors. My score, when looking back at my scoring for this album, again, I gave it somewhere between an 8.5 out of 10 for at least Concussion Protocol. But for Celebration Decay, since I'm, of course, doing the 8 point, XXX kind of thing, from my rating system, again, changing it up since 2016, I'm giving it this a 8.95 out of 10. Again, it's still in the same rating score and a comparison to Concussion Protocol, but again, a 8.95 I feel is at least in some ways proves my point in many ways, or at least gets my point across with this album. In many ways, it proves that I've given this at least an edge above, for sure, Concussion Protocol. So in many ways, it's a great album. Again, I think, I really do hope they are able to at least stick with at least a singer here, because I think Nick Courtney is a great freaking singer. He definitely, it's probably definitely difficult to try and find somebody that at least captures that really great spirit of the late Carl Albert, but I think Nick Courtney does a great freaking job, and I wish they would at least, hopefully they can keep this guy around. I think he's a great freaking singer, and I think he definitely gives the album, in many ways, is what makes the album for me. So this is a great freaking album from these guys. So this album, of course, has been out since August 21st, and for those who might have listened to this album, what were your thoughts on this album? I definitely would like to see your thoughts, and definitely put all of that in the comment section below. But if you haven't heard this album, this is definitely a good, solid album. If you are a fan of some of the stuff that Vicious Rumors have released for at least decades here, I don't think I see you having any problem with this. I don't see you doing any wrong with checking this album out. But if you are new to Vicious Rumors, even though this is definitely a solid album from these guys, I feel you definitely should at least go back and check out, of course, me, Soldiers in the Night, or check out Digital Dictator, or the self-titled third album, or even at times Welcome to the Ball. Any of those four, I think, are great starting points. But still, this is still a pretty good album in general, so I definitely get my hats off to this freaking album, and hats off to Vicious Rumors and Jeff Thorpe for at least still keeping this band going after, at this point, decades. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed this very Threadshed. Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.